Picture this. You're at a party, surrounded by laughter and conversation, but you might as well be watching through glass. Sound familiar? You're not alone in feeling alone. Maya Angelou once wrote, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." And for millions of us, that untold story is the persistent feeling of being an outsider, even in rooms full of people who care about us. Today, we're diving deep into why some of us carry this invisible weight, and more importantly, what we can do about it. The feeling of being an outsider isn't just in your head. Well, technically it is, but there's real science behind it. Research shows that about 61% of young adults report feeling seriously lonely, and this often stems from what psychologists call social displacement anxiety. If you're naturally introverted, you're processing the world differently than about 75% of the population. Your brain literally needs more time to recharge after social interactions. Carl Jung, who coined the terms introvert and extrovert, described introverts as people who turn inward for energy, but society often misinterprets this as being antisocial. For neurodivergent individuals, the outsider feeling can be even more intense. When your brain processes sensory information, emotions, or social cues differently, you're essentially speaking a different language in a world that expects fluency in the typical dialect. Early family dynamics play a huge role too. If you grew up in a household where emotions weren't discussed, where you moved frequently, or where you felt like you had to perform a certain version of yourself to be accepted, your nervous system learned that belonging wasn't safe or guaranteed. Maslow placed belonging right in the center of his hierarchy of needs. It's that fundamental to human well-being. When this need goes unmet, our brains interpret it as a survival threat. If you're nodding along, you probably recognize some of these patterns. Maybe you're the person who shows up fashionably late to avoid small talk, or leaves early before things get too social. You might catch yourself overanalyzing every interaction. Did they really mean it when they said, "we should hang out"? Or why did they look at me like that? Sometimes we unconsciously adopt what I call the quirky outsider identity. We lean into being different, collecting unusual hobbies or opinions like armor. There's nothing wrong with being unique, but ask yourself, am I embracing my authentic interests, or am I performing difference to justify my separateness? The truth is, when we expect rejection, we often unconsciously create it through our body language, our choices, and our assumptions about others' intentions. Let's get real about where this starts. Childhood experiences of bullying, frequent moves, or simply being the sensitive kid in a family that valued toughness can rewire our brains to expect exclusion. Third culture kids, those who grew up outside their parents' culture, often describe feeling like permanent foreigners, never fully belonging to any single place or group. But here's what's fascinating. Our internal narratives become self-fulfilling prophecies. If your inner voice constantly whispers, "I don't belong here," you'll unconsciously look for evidence to support that belief while filtering out signs of acceptance and connection. The psychological toll is real. Chronic loneliness affects our bodies similarly to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases inflammation, weakens immunity, and disrupts sleep. Depression and anxiety often follow, creating a cycle where isolation feels safer than risking rejection. But here's the plot twist that researchers are discovering. Feeling like an outsider can also be a hidden superpower. Studies show that people who feel different often develop higher levels of empathy, creativity, and pattern recognition. Susan Cain writes in Quiet that many of our greatest innovations come from those who think differently, who observe from the margins. Your outsider perspective might be exactly what the world needs. So how do we heal this? First, practice what psychologists call cognitive reframing. Instead of, "I don't fit in anywhere," try, "I haven't found my people yet." It's not just positive thinking, it's rewiring decades of neural pathways. Look for your tribe intentionally. Join communities built around shared interests, values, or experiences rather than just proximity. Online spaces can be particularly healing for those of us who felt different. Suddenly you realize there are thousands of people who think like you do. Consider therapy, especially if childhood experiences shaped your outsider identity. Sometimes we need help updating the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and where we belong. Most importantly, practice radical self-acceptance. As Brené Brown reminds us, true belonging doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. If you felt like an outsider your whole life, I want you to hear this. Your sensitivity, your depth, your different way of seeing the world, these aren't flaws to fix. They're gifts that the world desperately needs. Your story of feeling different might be exactly what helps someone else feel less alone. Share your experience in the comments below, and if this resonated with you, subscribe for more conversations that go beneath the surface. You belong here.